Welcome to the podcast where we take a deep dive into the stories behind construction business leaders. We will share how they got started, how they found success, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Eric Fortenberry. Welcome to Builder Stories. Hello, everyone. I'm here with Jason Varney, the owner of Dock and Deck and Tennessee Pool and Spa in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm really excited to have Jason on today. He's been someone that I've followed for a long time now. He's got a really awesome story, and we're really glad to have you on the show today, Jason. Welcome.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So why don't you, kind of give us your background, just a little bit of, who you are, how you got into, building docks and building pools.
Well, it started years ago. I worked in the automotive industry for the first 11 years out of, during college time frame and everything. One day I was given the option to choose the profession that I really wanted to go into. I chose to go into construction. And I started out really in the log home and timber frame side of construction as a career, building log home and timber frames only. And that was 2005, 2004. And it went out through those time frames of just getting to build the homes. And in 2007, as we all know, the market collapsed in the housing industry. And we went from way up here to absolutely no jobs whatsoever. While we were doing that, we had a customer that asked, "Would you build a boat dock for me?" And I at the time, I'm too good to build a boat dock. I'm like, no way, I'm not building a little boat dock. I built $1 million homes. So needless to say, the good Lord above said, you didn't have any work, so you need to do something else. So I chose to do the boat dock, and the boat dock turned from doing one boat dock, which I had no experience doing, by the way. I figured, though, I'm used to doing a timber frame house or a post and beam, you're really just building a post out in the water instead of a post on land. Sure. So it kind of directly related, and I've always built decks and that type of construction anyways on an existing home. So it was fairly easy for me to transition to that. Started building that one dock while I'm out still pushing homes to try to get those. People were pulling up by boat. You build boat docks? Yes. And one turned to two turned to three turned to six, and it just really snowballed. And I was working off really in that point, not very modern equipment or not very good stuff, just enough to get by. So I bought my first barge and drove to Mississippi, hopped on a barge, never drove one of those either, and drove it home to Tennessee and started working it. And it just really started escalating from there. And we started building outdoor waterfront projects, and waterfront projects also took on backyard projects. And as we have grown, the company has grown too. So we've been asked to do more projects. Now we do decks, we do pergolas, we do backyard projects. Then as my sons both entered the business and really started taking hold, Hunter really wanted to get involved in pools. And now we have a complete new pool company. Now it's 2 years, and we do a lot of major gunite pools with Tennessee Pool and Spa. That's what the company is. That's a sister company to Dock and Deck, and that has really taken off too. So we went from doing a dock in the water at the time of, let's call it $75,000 to now projects where we're up in we're doing projects $750,000 to $1 million is a complete backyard project. So it's been a great experience. I've enjoyed doing it. I've been able to bring both my sons in and have them involve me or involve them in the business, and I get to work with them every day. It's really just turned out to be almost something that I never really would have thought I would have chosen. It turned out to be my ultimate dream job. I'm excited every day to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I can also attest to just the value and getting to work with your dad. He's my CFO here at JobTread, and it's life's too short to not really enjoy it, and just having that opportunity to work with your family. And a lot of people, it doesn't work out for them. It's not an easy thing at times, but I find it very rewarding, and it just kind of helps me appreciate that journey just as much. And I'm sure you're super proud of seeing what Taylor and Hunter have been able to do with your businesses.
Yeah, and I think that really goes back to talking about what we're talking about today on not only my story, but how it relates to JobTread and everything else. I'm old school, man. I'm a manila folder and papers all in that folder. I want to have that file system. I'm that guy. But at the same time, that limits a person on what they can achieve. And one of the first things that when Taylor and Hunter both came in, it was all about let's change this over and let's make it more modernized. Let's do it all on computer. Let's present them with PDFs. Let's do this. Let's make a generalized way of doing business. So, I talked to you early on. We were building our own software. We had our own software actually we're working off of. And we were going down that path when we crossed paths at JLC. I mean, I'm sitting there talking about it. Kevin says, hey, listen, you need to go down here and see the guys at JobTread. I went to JobTread and looked at what you had, and it was almost identical to what we were building and replicating. It's just that you had it with your foot on the gas, doing it much better than us. And at that point, I said, why in the world would I do anything other than this? And it's really, I think when you build a business and expand a business and really take on that role, you have to have all the processes in place. What it's done by working with JobTread is you have made a lot of that process, meaning how we quote, how we do it. You have to have that same replication over and over and over again to get really, really good. And that process has helped. But most importantly, it's helped because they were on board. And that's the key. I think, you said it earlier, working with your family, it sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. Family business is sometimes hard business, but they also, you can count on them. You don't ever really have to worry about your dad jumping ship and going to the competitor or whatever. And that's what you're doing is you have a real good culture at your company. We have a real good culture at ours. We've had bad hires, where you guys just don't buy into the process and don't see the future and don't see everything else, and hey, piss on them, let them go. So it's all right, not a big deal. We come, we go, and we get better at it. So sure. I'm happy for the growth, and I'm happy that what we're building here. So and JobTread's made a huge impact on us.
Awesome. Glad, always glad to hear that. So help us understand. So originally you're building homes, and then you got into building the docks and the decks and the outdoor living. And so did the pool business start off under dock and deck, and then you spun it out, or how did you know that you needed to create a separate, business here?
Well, the way that all started, as dock and deck grew and got bigger, we got recognized for what we were building. Not because of social media, not because any of that. I keep trying to tell everybody in the industry how this really works. Put your head down, put the blinders on, get the work done, and you will be recognized. You'll be noticed. It doesn't matter how many Instagram posts you do or how many webinars or classes you do. It's get out there, show the work. The big guys in the industry, all the big guys. We talked about this before. You ask, hey, what does Deck South and John Lee do? We all know. We all see his projects. I can tell you Holloway and Company. Those guys, these are the guys that are out there award-winning projects day in and day out. It's not that they're posting a ton of them. They've never had any recognition for years. It's because they put the work in. That's what we've tried to do. We just went out, got the work done, made huge projects, did what it took to get recognized by the manufacturers, by in my case, television. Television came around and they said, hey, listen, we want to do a show on you. We've seen what you build. Well, during that time of doing the TV show, I was introduced to a lot of other TV celebrities and everything else. One of them was the Pool Kings, and it was Pool and Spa, and they happened to be in Nashville, Tennessee. And Hunter was all in, just thought that was the coolest show on the planet. And he was like, that's what I want to do, Dad. And I was like, hey, we're this over here. We're not doing that. And so he helped us and taught Hunter and kind of led him in the direction of where he needs to go and how he needs to do it. And I said, Hunter, when you graduate from school, if that's what you still want to do, we will take on that project. Oh, that side of the business. So when he graduated, he was still gung ho about doing it. And we added a pool company. The pool company is a sister company. It's actually a DBA to Dock and Deck. So it falls under the umbrella of a Dock and Deck company. And as Dock and Deck expands, and we have other things that we have under the Dock and Deck umbrella, is other sub companies that work underneath that same culture. But as a whole, it's Dock and Deck, and that's what we do. So
Gotcha.
But that's how that developed, and now it's been a huge revenue source for us. We never really would have thought it to be that, probably, and I never would have thought 5 years ago, I never thought that could have been how strong it is. But as anybody knows, or as you know, and you see those kind of things with our records and stuff, it definitely has increased revenue and bottom line. I mean, we have really taken off. I mean, the first year in the pool thing, I think Hunter did around $1 million just in pools, and as of this year, I think he's $1.5 million plus in just pools this year so far. So hopefully he'll close out closer to the $2 million range in pools.
That's incredible.
Year. So that's an incredible growth because as Dock and Deck, I mean, it took me almost 6 years just to get to $1 million, and then I thought that was with the day I broke that, he did it his very first year. So, so needless to say, it increased very fast, and it's helped our bottom line. Also, it's given us the option to give our customers the complete backyard experience.
Sure.
We're not just a deck builder. We're not just a pool builder. We're not just a dock builder. We are a backyard or outdoor living specialist. So we will specialize in anything outside your sliding glass doors all the way out into the lake or the water or whatever. We'll be glad to build it. And that's how we present ourselves. And it's been a great thing to be able to do it like that.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about the structure of these two organizations. What employees does each of the businesses have, and are you using subcontractors to get the work done, or do you have employees that are doing it? How have you structured the teams?
We've done a little bit of both. In the past, we have been strictly a W-2 only company. We wanted to have every one of our employees directly under us. And the reason why we do that is so we can control our builds. We can control the time. So if you have subs and they don't show up, you can't make them show up. That's what a subcontractor is. I mean, they work as an independent company that works for you. With a W-2 employee, we can make sure they come and show up and do as we want. As we've been building this thing out and getting it bigger, we have our core people. So we have 10 employees that are core employees that stay on W-2 all the time. When they go to jobs, we do have sub teams now that come in and work. So we'll have, let's call it framers. We only use the same framers over and over and over again because they understand our process. But they're not the only person there. We will have one of our guys there on the site leading that and making sure everything's done exactly the way we need it done and how it needs to be done. But we also have, we have multiple divisions of the company. We have a pile driving crew. So we have a barge out in the water with just strictly pile guys. That consists of 3 guys on the piling crew. We have Taylor, myself, Hunter, Angel in the office, Chris, and Lewis are core Dock and Deck. We have then a pool group that we do our pools with, and there's 5 guys in the pool group. They dig, plumb, rebar, the whole 9 yards. We do sub out the gunite, the shooting of the gunite, and we sub out the plaster crews as of right now to be done. Once we get past that, our guys do all the hardscapes. Our guys do all the pavers, all the sod, all the everything for plantings, you name it, irrigation. If it's the backyard, we typically do it. Besides that, on the docks or the deck side, we do every single bit from start to finish. And we also have helical piers that we do our own helical piers. We do not sub any of that out.
Yeah.
So we do every bit of our own. And one of the reasons for doing that, it has its advantages and has its disadvantages. The advantages, again, are you're familiar exactly with what you do. You can stock inventory. You can do all that. The downside is you have to maintain the equipment. You have to own all this stuff. You have to keep it up. You have to get it on the job site. You have to do everything required. And you also have to carry the insurance accordingly proper to do all this.
Sure.
And that's one of the things I think that everybody in this industry needs to know. You know, when you get up to doing $5 million plus in revenue, I'm telling you, you're going to get sued. You're going to have problems. You're going to see the downside of a business. All these guys, oh, I'm never going to have that happen to me. I'm so good in the industry. It doesn't matter. There's guys out there that are just, they're just happy to do that to you. So, you know, again, having all this stuff, making sure you're insured properly, making sure your contracts are written properly. Yeah. So, you know, making sure there's terms and conditions on those contracts that cover you in these things. As lots of these guys that are popping in right now, you know, they had this big upswing because they saw the outdoor living spaces and contractors and just pools and everything else get just from nothing to massive over the years of COVID. During that time frame, our business models increased dramatically. They really did. But they also haven't seen what those kind of things can do. So having clauses for pandemics or that kind of stuff in your contracts are huge.
Yeah.
I would definitely say get a lawyer, get with somebody who knows it and gets those on your contracts to help you protect yourself. Because as you expand, as you grow, problems come.
Yeah, that's that is phenomenal advice, Jason. You know, I see so many guys who, you know, they're younger in their, you know, in their business journey, and sometimes it takes that really tough, hard lesson, you know, to realize that you should have, you know, done some more proactive work to put in place contracts, you know, really thinking through that. And I mean, you know, we have a legal partner on JobTread that, you know, is there to help, you know, customers do it. But, you know, at the end of the day, like I wholeheartedly agree. It's worth the couple $1,000 or whatever it is that you're going to put in up front to protect yourself. Cause man, one huge, you know, loss could really tank your business.
Absolutely. And I don't think people really understand or get it because they can't get past their ego or the I don't ever make that mistake.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, I've done a lot in business and I've made every mistake I can make in business. I don't make it twice, but I've made every mistake. And I hope to keep making mistakes because I make mistakes because we're learning.
Yeah.
We're continuing to get better, and the mistakes are the only way you can really learn. But we have to also limit those mistakes. And I will say like this, during the COVID year, we had no clause. We're a fixed price contractor and we sign that contract. It basically says we'll perform this task and do this job for you at this expense. And it's signed. There was no way out.
Yeah.
So we end the prices and I know we're different because our jobs are a much larger scale than a lot of these guys just building a 14 by 20 rectangle on the back of the house today.
Sure. That's
something that you can go out and get a permit today for, start building on Monday, have it finished by Friday, and you're on your way. Ours, you will sell the job, and sometimes that job, we'll never even start it for another year. We have a year plus of backlog all the time we typically work on.
Wow.
So if we sign a contract today without any terms that prices can, if it go up, we have the right to readjust the price.
Nice. Yep.
15 days prior. Hey, you could get stuck. I got stuck with it. I lost to the tune of about $250,000+ when COVID happened.
Wow.
Hey, I had two options: to back out, not do the job, and look like a terrible person in business and ruin the reputation that I built, or do the right thing, eat the cost, and do it. And we ate the cost. But it was a hard lesson to learn, but it was also a good lesson because I think with anything you have to, I mean, you went to college, you paid for that. That was a college course. It's just years after, you know what I mean? That's just a $250,000 lesson on how not to lose again. So, and it fixed a lot of problems. But then again, what you were saying goes back to it. They could have gone in and got with one of your legal partners that does that same thing for probably $2,500
Yep.
save themselves. And I will tell you, $2,500 is a whole lot less than the downside.
Absolutely. So, you've mentioned a couple things I want to dig into a little bit. Earlier you're talking about, the importance of just, do high quality work. That's the number one thing you can do to build your brand and get your reputation out there. I mean, I'm also a huge believer, may the best product, may the best service always win. And, tell us a little bit about though, like, what has been your marketing strategy, and maybe kind of thinking back to your earlier days, like how did you kind of, market the businesses and try to kind of create that awareness? Any sort of advice or guidance that you could share there?
Yeah. Early days, we marketed, well, we started off, and I'll just be straight. It was during that 2008 time frame, and times were getting tight and everything was ratcheting down. So we limited on what we would do. We made flyers and went around and put them in mailboxes, right? It was literally the guerrilla marketing tactic. Just go out and blanket cover areas and try to do it. That's probably not the smartest method, but I will say it worked. It helped. It got us work. But what we saw was the most important thing that we did during that time frame was that we hit home shows. We did our local home shows. We got out and did things for people and for organizations within our community. And that got us some more views and some more looks. And they saw what we were doing and started doing more and more jobs from that. Now, what do? We have linked really, and it's different from us because ever since television, it got us out there to the masses. So I know you see guys today that, that are in the masses and I've got 100,000 followers. I've got 200,000 followers. Again, there's a whole nother conversation about that. That's a lot of it's false. What it is getting your followers to people to follow you is where we need to get market share in our community and that stuff. I can have 50,000 followers on Facebook and on Instagram, but how many of them are buying our products?
Yeah.
I need to get in front of the people who are buying our products, and those are people in our community. So with that said, we have tried to always get to that. Our business changed when television happened because we did get recognized over TV, local news, media, everything else. It has just really, really, really got bigger. And that has helped us to where we do not have to really spend a lot on marketing because we became a well-known person in our town and also across the country. And that was great. And I do absolutely make a lot of that, give a lot of that credit to the social media sides and all that, but it was because of television.
Gotcha.
So that's really how that's happened. We also, though, winning local things in most towns, they have kind of a best of the best. We've won the best outdoor contractor in Knoxville for years now. We've won it the last 2 years. When you do that, people recognize it because they see the local magazines. We have a magazine, City View, in our town, and then also VIP Knoxville. It's kind of local stories of companies and businesses, and a lot of people advertise your garage door companies, your air conditioning companies. They run these types of contests, best of the best. Who's your best in Knoxville? So when you win those, it says a lot about what you're doing in your local community, and it also says that you're getting quite a few jobs, obviously. So we try to do local type of stuff, and then we try to also do as much as we possibly can for the organizations that we see impact our business the most. We try to get involved with obviously I'm a Tennessee fan and here in Knoxville, so UT Sports, a lot of people go and do those functions. So you want to do stuff associated with them if possible. We want to do stuff with retirement communities where a lot of people are in those areas. We want to do stuff with HOAs and those kind of areas, and that's what we see a lot of our business comes from that.
Man, I think, again, phenomenal advice. You got to make sure you're focused on your target audience, that local community, the actual buyers. Everything else is, just kind of, nice to have fluff, yada, yada. But it's like, you got to get in front of your actual prospects and buyers to really, turn this into actual, deals for you.
And I think that goes with all businesses. It's like yours. When you look at where you focus, where your audience is.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: it's not the following you have on social media that's bringing you the business. That following comes once you have what you're doing. It's like right now with your the JobTread group where you can get on. There's quite a few members on that.
Yep.
But they became that because you had such a good software at the front end. You had to prove the software was awesome before the people started following. So I think that's the key with all those things. And you're exactly right. Just get out there, put the work in, have a plan, know what your plan is, and never, ever, ever deviate from that plan. And that's how we've been. We knew where we wanted to get to. We know what we want to do. I don't care how many TV shows or how many followers or how many platforms come up on social media. I want to get to here, and that was my goal. And that's the goal first. Now, all the rest of the stuff is great, and I love it that it comes, but we're excited with that. So we're excited to embark on some new stuff. You asked about marketing and everything else. I did just agree and just signed to do a new TV show. So new TV show's filming now, and it will come out soon. So it's a lot more details to be released in the short feature, but it's a big thing for us, and we're excited to do it because we saw the direct result of what it brought us from the first one, and this one should be even bigger. Yeah.
So let me ask you another question. So earlier, you talked about, basically you may be booking, up to 12 months out in the future. Obviously you've done a great job, building a team of subcontractors as well as employees. How do you decide, whether to try to increase your sub base and your team to handle, additional jobs and try to shorten that, that kind of delay and being able to start the work versus keeping it out there? I mean, obviously, you got a high quality product that people are willing to wait for, but how do you decide, how much do you, try to scale the team to take on more projects, sooner versus, making them wait? What's the thinking behind that?
There's a few things that we cannot control, and that on our time frame, a lot of that determines we can't control permitting. Like, I can't go out tomorrow and get a dock permit and start building. A dock permit can be as fast as 8 weeks. I've seen them take a year. We can't even get a permit for a year from the date you apply for it. I've seen that happen multiple times. So it's not us that's wanting to hold back. We have to hold back, which that's kind of good because it gives our customers the understanding there's a bigger lead time. And also, if you can just go in and just start on a job immediately today, that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, I will say this, and I don't understand how a lot of times it happens or how people do it. But if you have 8 jobs and you are turning them out, I don't know how you can hire anybody. I don't know how you can comfortably hire any person if you have only 2 months of work out in front of you, or 8 jobs. I mean, if I had 6 to 8 decks to build, and I knew I could build a deck a week, that means I have 8 weeks of work. There's no way I would hire you and have you come to work for me and your family depend on an income with only 8 weeks of guaranteed time for you.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I mean, I just don't see it. So when you ask, how do we do that? I feel confident that one of the most important things that we do as a business is we truly do. I care about every single employee. And when I say I care about their employee, I care about them. I care about their family. I care about their how they're going to be. I do not hire to fire or hire to let go. We hire to keep. And that means that every single one of our people, regardless of the situation, will always receive a paycheck. I will not get paid for weeks or months if I had to in order to do that. Thank God we don't have to go that route. I get a paycheck, but that's one of the most important focuses for us is to always never hire somebody if we didn't think we could permanently keep them forever. So, and at their rate of pay. So we don't want to get a guy on here and say, "Oh, I'll give you $50,000," and then have to turn around and cut his pay to 25. That's also doing wrong. So when we hire anybody, we're going to scale, we get to the point where we realize that scale is going to happen, or we have to have enough feeling that by adding that division, that company with that investment, those people will pay off in the long run and make their own pay. So I think that's how we scale and how we've done it. But again, we have a plan on where we're going, and we know where we want to go, and that's all part of the game. So we've been able to properly scale and able to properly do stuff by working off a plan. And I think that one of the things I notice when I talk to you all the time, you have a plan. The best football programs in the country have a plan. They don't just go out and say, "We're going to play ball today. What are you going to run?" We don't know. What happens if it doesn't work? We don't know. They have a plan on how they're going to get there. Now, sometimes does the plan need to change or modify midstream? Absolutely. But I'll tell you what, they started in with a plan and they knew where they wanted to be at the end. So that's how we do it. And but I think the biggest thing that we have tried to figure out and tried to get is a good business culture and a good plan always in one. And a plan is not just having a hobby. I mean, I see that a lot with the guys in the construction industry, and one day they're building a deck, one day they're doing drywall, one day they're putting shingles on, one day they're doing a front door replacement. What are you?
Yeah,
it's kind of like if you relate that to JobTread. If JobTread's doing software one day, but web hosting the next, and doing web design pages and then logos and this thing, it's like you're a disaster. Yeah. Choose one field and stick to that one field and get to be the best at that field. That's what the goal was, is to be the best in your field. And thank goodness we've been able to do it, but we did it by putting our head down and really achieving. Now when you hear the word, hey, docs in our industry, it's nice to know that your name's involved in that. That's how people recognize you, by doing that. So once we got to that, now we're going to add pools in, and we're going to get to where we're that way in pools, and we do high-end deck jobs, and we just try to build that culture where we get good at it, and people will recognize us, not talk about how good we are when you do only 3 jobs. It's you put the work in and get it done. So
so it seems like you've really narrowed in your focus. You know exactly what you're good at and what you guys want to focus on selling and doing. I mean, can you talk to us a little bit more about in terms of kind of financial planning? Are you setting annual goals for yourself? Are you setting quarterly? How do you go about thinking about these financial plans and budgets that you may be putting into place each year?
Yes, and as the company has grown and the company's expanded, and there's been people that get to come in and take on certain roles. One of the biggest things that helped me was having Taylor and Hunter come in and take on the similar day-to-day operations. It's allowed me to, without it sounding too cliche-ish, be the CEO, be the guy who looks at the numbers. My job is to look at numbers now and see where we are best making money, losing money, where we need to adjust, where we need to modify, where we need to negotiate our contracts or our deals with our vendors or whatever it might be to maximize our profit. And what we have done, and it has allowed it very, probably more than I've ever seen increase, is JobTread has really helped us a lot with that. And it's allowed us to look at the numbers in all categories and line itemed out. We have, as you know, we have a very, very intricate back end on our JobTread. We run it in like a business, a true business operation instead of just a generalized blanketed. Here's your materials, here's our labor, here's our overhead. This is what it is. Boom. We know on all categories what we need to do, and we can adjust those numbers daily or on the fly to make those numbers get to where we need it to be for the job. And we know that we're covering all of our costs, we're covering all of our overhead, we're covering all of our everything. Then we look at our profits. So our profit numbers have really increased to the point where, I mean, and me and you had this talk before. It's if I could, and I know we're talking about me and my company, but I'm also telling that as we're talking about this, I hope others listen to this and understand one thing that they can come out of this. As you scale or as you build a business, you have a lot of decisions that can make or help you in business.
Yeah.
I have personally will say that this has been, to me, one of the most influential things in the money category I've ever ran into is having a good software program to work off of, because I can promise you, and at any given time, if anybody wants to call these numbers out, I'm glad to do it. I've never been able to make the kind of money and had the ability to view what we're doing as much as what we are currently, because the software platform we're working on. It gives us extreme insight to what's going on inside the business if you look at it and you understand what you're looking at. I mean, again, there's a lot of times when people look at stuff and they don't understand it. I mean, it's almost like pulling up your DirecTV guide. I mean, you're like, what do I do? How do I get to that point? Until you understand what you're looking at. And then it's really simple. Same with the software. It has, let me just go in and act as a CEO to a company, not as the owner that is one day hammering nails, one day ordering materials, one day doing this. It lets me say, hey, listen, your job is to order materials. As he orders materials, I can see if he's doing it good or not by how much money we're either making or losing on the sheet in real time.
Yeah.
So at any given time, I could say, what's going on? Why are we doing this? Well, we didn't have a choice. We had to buy those. No, we had a choice. You just didn't want to make the choice. So I can make changes with that guy right then. The quoting stuff, I can see where the guys are quoting. Are they quoting it right? Are they doing this to maximize our profits? And comparing our previous jobs to the ones we're coming up that are very similar, so we have a scale or something to go off of. And that's how it's done for us. And we have a plan to, early days, I'll tell you, I just wanted to make a living. That's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to pay my house payment, be able to go on a vacation with my kids, and have a normal life. Then as you get to a number and it starts getting more employees and more of that, we want that for every one of our people within, and we want them to prosper beyond. So what my goal is to continue to increase revenue, but sometimes increasing revenue is not by increasing how many jobs you sell.
Yeah.
I hear that all the time. We build 100 decks. Well, good. If you could build 2 and get huge margins on them, would you not rather do that? It's better. You're going to make better numbers. And that's what we've really focused on. I don't think scaling the business because of a whole bunch of employees is the best way to scale. I think it's maximize the profits on individual jobs by watching them and doing what you can to maximize that. Once you get to that point where you're on a maximizing schedule, replicate that, maybe add another crew. But then continue to run the operation that way. And that way you're guaranteed success on the back end. So how we're doing it by actually watching job to job, getting our maximum dollars out of it. And when I say maximum dollars out of it, I'm not just talking about how did we get, maximizing, I sold that job for 18%. No, I'm talking about, did you also sell a pool? Was there an option for that? Maximize that job. So if the person's got a backyard and they said, hey, we really want to do a really good backyard, a lot of guys will just go, okay, I can build you a deck. we would say, like, what is your plan to do the backyard? And they'll say, well, we don't have a plan. Well, let's go ahead and get a drawing together for you.
Yeah.
Make money on that. Now they come out and have this drawing and it has a deck and a pool and a dock. Well, why would you have just shorted yourself and just done the deck? If you knew all those three existed, why didn't you try to do all those jobs for them and get all the work? And that way, that one customer that you would have had one job on turned to 3 jobs by that one customer. Well, if you do that on 10 customers a year, you went from 10 jobs to 30 jobs. I'm telling you right now, you're making a lot more money if you also make profit on every one of those jobs. And that's the key, is making a profit. And most people just don't know how to recognize profit. And I'm not talking about, I'm not downplaying anybody. There's a lot of people who are really good at this also. But what I'm saying is, what is profit? I hear it all the time, and I think you hear it all the time. Like, oh, we made $20,000 on that job. Okay, how did you get that job? Well, are you guys going to do a home show? Yeah. Was part of that $20,000 paying for that home show? Well, yeah, that's where it goes. Well, you didn't make $20,000 because you didn't figure that in. Yeah. You didn't figure in that extra truck. You didn't figure in that trip to Deck Expo or this or that, you know, and all those things depreciate how much money you are actually making a profit. And until you recognize all that and put all those numbers into play, that's when you start actually truly making a profit and truly move up the scale in the money factor. So,
yeah, you know, I think, you know, Jason, very early on, I realized, you know, you're kind of at a whole nother level of sophistication, being able to manage, you know, the business and the jobs when, you know, you showed me how you were taking, you know, basically all of your overhead costs, everything, you know, below the gross profit line, all the way to the net income. You took all of the additional costs, you know, your salaries, your trucks, your offices, like all those marketing expenses. And you said, look, here's what we do. We take all of that, put it into one bucket. We divide by the number of working days per year. And then that's how you allocate your operating costs to every single job based on the number of days that it was going to take. And so, you know, most people in JobTread are looking at it as a gross profit. You're looking at it as your net profit, your net income after all of your expenses. And like, you know, that's a whole nother level there, Jason, but it totally makes sense how you've really been able to dial it in. And you know, your true profit at the end of the day, what did the business earn after everything else? And that's such a huge, you know, kind of lesson that people can learn about, because, you know, just because you can put top line, you know, gross profit up there and, you know, who knows what your other expenses are. If you can't control those, you could still be losing a ton of money.
And then there's other people, and I see it on the threads and everything else. I read a lot of stuff on the internet, a lot, and I go through all those. I might not comment on it, but I promise you I'm reading every one of them. And but what I hear a lot of times is like, how do you figure that out? How do you get a price to do this? How do you do that? And everybody will say cost of goods, then overhead, and then profit. So just multiply it by 3. Well, that works for some people.
Yeah.
But if the guy has a job and he has no office, his overhead's cheaper than me. If he's driving a 1986 Chevy truck to work, it's cheaper than the guy driving the F450, right? Yeah. He has a big payment. If he has one employee, it's a lot easier for him to have his overhead than if we have 20 employees. It's all based on what you do as your operation. And if you understand your business is what you have to get down. And I think this is the number one reason why I'm so anti-social media and portraying this and that. Because what I am is not what the next guy is. And what that guy is not what the other guy is. So every single person has their own set business, and they need to understand their business, because if you replicate, now a man that has one employee and no office building, if he wants to replicate my price, I promise you he's making a lot of money, because he doesn't have the expenditures we do. But you can't go by that model and think you're going to be good. You have to know your business and know it inside and out. And also just recognize, I mean, with estimating how many days it's going to take you to actually finish that job. There's a lot of people who, and I say a lot of people, I fall into that lot of people category on everything. There's things that, again, everybody says, well, how do you know how that's that's good. And I said, I know it will work. And they will, how do you know it's going to work? Because I've lost every other way. I know those methods don't work. Yeah. We go back to the methods that are right. So, there's just certain things that I would say how people need to understand their business and get down with really getting laser focused on what they're doing. And when I hear the comments from people like, oh, well, we're making 30% margins. Are you?
Yeah.
Are you really? We're making 50%. Are you? I'll tell you what, if you're truly making 50% margins, I promise you'll lose that job to me, because I don't need to make 50% margins. But if they're not, because here's the thing, I don't think they know what their margins are until they really get down to what is their overhead. And a lot of people don't understand that they have to make a living first.
Yeah.
And it's like with everything in true business ownership, I think a lot of companies, they're hobbies that generate money. They're not businesses yet. And a business is when you actually recognize all of what's going on around you and actually focus it into where you can maximize much what you're doing, and then start running it as that. But I think as you get a bigger company and you get to where you're doing millions of dollars and stuff like that, you ask most contractors or most people in the world, what's your EBITDA? What is your ARR? What are these numbers? And everybody looks at you like, what's going on? Those are numbers that's a business knows that.
Yeah.
Once you get to when you start recognizing numbers and how you're truly doing and what your forecasts are, you can't really give a good forecast unless you know those numbers. So I think that would be one of the things that I would recognize helped me the most. When you ask me that, how did I get to doing that? Years ago, I had an accountant come in to our business and look at the business and said, here is what you're spending your money on. Here is where this is going. Here's where that's going. Why?
Yeah.
And they actually looked at how many hours our employees were there, what they were doing and getting accomplished in those hours in comparison to this job, to that job. And they were like, it doesn't make sense. And you start narrowing it down and truly understanding your business. Now, all this stuff costs a lot of money and it takes a lot of time. Sure. But I will tell you, if you don't invest in your business in that respect, you will never, ever, ever see the results that, thank the good Lord above, that I have seen. And it's been a very good run, and it's been very prosperous. And, I can't imagine doing anything more than what I do today and how we get to do it. So.
Sure. So, kind of in wrapping up here, I'm curious, what's your outlook on, the industry, the economy, kind of where we're going, and how are you guys planning to, make adjustments, and what do you recommend for other people?
Well, I see for ours, it's a little bit different. I'm not going to lie. The customers solve depending on areas and who your clientele is. And I think that's understanding your business. A person in the deck space right now, just in decks, I would be a little cautious. When you start talking about high net worth individuals, high net worth people that like waterfront living, for what example of what I do, right? I think the economy's not going to affect these people. They have lots of discretionary income. They have lots of money. They're not living paycheck to paycheck per se. They're not even living paycheck with savings. They can do what they want when they want to for a long time. So it doesn't affect that clientele that much. But I have noticed in certain smaller projects, people are the market, as the rates go up, and the rates are not coming down any given time close. We all know that once the rates get up like this, it's going to take a while to swing back. I personally have talked to a bunch of financial people. I don't think that there'll be a fixed rate mortgage again under fives in a long time. I don't think you'll ever see it. With that said, that means that people will have to spend more on their house payment on the initial, where right now, in years past, we've seen tons of equity and low rates. Yeah. They could get a low payment and have a lot more money as spending extra. So I would, so with that said, I think our focus is to continue on with the high-end clientele jobs that we're doing, because those jobs happen to be there all the time for us. And and they're willing to spend regardless of the economy. In the smaller markets and jobs, the decks, the stuff like that, where I think that that market might see a little bit of a hit in comparison over the next run. We always heard in construction industry, presidential election years always seem to be weird for us. Why? I don't know, but I follow the way things go, and I can tell you all the time, an election year, it's kind of this, and then you get a president, and it starts going up. Yep. And then it starts falling back towards the election year. So you always have these flows like this, these that kind of matrix. So we try to see that, but I would say home repairs, I think home repair stuff is going to continue to increase because people have to repair their homes right now. They can't go out and buy another home. So buying homes is no longer a thing. We've seen that market slow down dramatically over just a short period of time. So I think repairs and stuff like that are going to continue to increase. So I don't see and also service jobs just are getting smaller and smaller and smaller in terms of how many people are going into that industry. So I think the guys who can continue to hold on, make it, know their business, and go to the top will have longevity and success as long as that's there. That's kind of my forecast. But then again, they pay me to do forecasts on businesses that me to build dots, outdoor spaces, right? So
no, that makes total sense. I'd say that we echo. We're seeing a lot of people not choosing not to go sell and buy a new home. They're more focused on we're going to be in this one for a while longer, so let's invest in in our current property and try to make those repairs and make those quality of life upgrades that that they can fit within their budget.
And if you offer financing or if you do that kind of stuff, remember it's getting tough. It's not as easy to get financing as what it was 2 years ago. So the people that you were counting on, if you're counting on jobs as financing, home equity lines of credit and all that kind of stuff, they're pulling down on those things. They're getting kind of scared with it through the banks. So I think that if that's where your customers tend to come from, you probably need to watch that as a slowdown period. But then again, I think all this relates to one thing and one thing only, right? Knowing your business, not knowing everybody else's business or how others work, knowing your business and what you need to do to focus on it. So if the market is in your area is going out and getting into an area where there's a lot more money and a lot higher end homes, maybe you want to go advertise there and get those jobs because they probably are more likely than to go out and continue doing smaller jobs that are easier to get on usually than the big jobs. But that particular area is not going to have as much jobs now or ability to buy as people on the top. So I just think it's getting in front of the right people. So
all right. So one last question, two-parter. What would you say is the best advice you ever got, and what advice, if you had to pick one thing, would you give to all the other builders and contractors out there that are striving to build a successful business and one day would hope to be in a similar situation as you?
The best piece of advice that I ever got, and I say this all the time. My dad said it to me, and he would always say, "Just because you're in the toilet doesn't mean you have to play with the shit." He would always say that to me, and to me, I didn't really get it. And he said, regardless of what you're going to do, you're going to go through hard times. You're going to go through bad stuff. Don't stay in that area for a long time. You're in it. We know it's going to happen. But get in and get out. Get away from it. You don't have to swim with a turd. You know what I'm saying? Don't just keep riding with it. Try to get to clean water. So my thing with all this is as a business and as anything else, you go through tough times and there's challenges with any business. But I think the key to that is going in and making a plan from the start and know where you need to get to and go to that, knowing those challenges they're going to be there. And it's going to be a lot of things. We continue to have it. I mean, from bad hires to dealing with the wrong companies. I mean, that's a very simple thing all of us deal with. There's companies out there that thought that was going to be the greatest thing on the planet, and you find out that it's not, and it's a bad decision. But do you want to harp and relish on that, or do you just want to just punt and go on? Yeah. Let's just go to the next step and see how it does. I've learned in what piece of advice I could say, and that would be it. You are who you hang around with, and you are what you are. If you run around with 4 guys who only worry about drama and all this, you're going to be the 5th guy that just drama hangs around you, and all it does is drag you down. Yeah. If you're going to constantly bitch about materials not being in the industry or at your jobs or whatever, guess what's going to happen? The next day, you're probably going to continue that cycle, and it's going to continue to drag you down. Just one thing that has really been freeing for me and great is I know stuff good happens and I know stuff bad happens. I don't relish in the great and I don't relish in the bad. I just prepare for the next day, and I look forward to every single day with the same enthusiasm of how can I get to my goal and how can we get where we want to go. And what it's done is it's just really made me so happy just to do my job and to be around the people and to get to talk to other customers and get to talk to other contractors and help out, because I think as a whole, what we all need to do, and we all need to strive on that, is work together and try to do what's best for each other. I mean, I think that as a group, we can gather a whole bunch of people and really move the needle. But if we all just try to individually do it, I don't think that needle's going to move very much. So
awesome. Well, Jason, it's you have shared just so much great advice here. So many, gold nuggets are going to have come out of this show. I really appreciate you taking the time to, break down some of these concepts and these lessons that you've learned along the way, because, again, I've known you for a while now, several years we've been working together. Like, you really have been a great inspiration to me and to all the builders around us. And so, I want to thank you for, continuing to be, such a great role model out there for the industry and for everyone out there. And, we wish you the best of continued success. I plan to have Hunter and Taylor on here, someday soon, so we can kind of hear the story from their perspective. I think that would be rather interesting as well. But, you guys are doing great work out there. And, I want to thank you for everything that you do for the community as well.
Hey, well, thank you for the kind words. That's very humbling, and it's great to hear. I appreciate it. If anything, that's probably the biggest joy that you can get, is hearing that from people that you actually make an impact on them. And I thank you for that comment. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Jason. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Builder Stories. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained valuable insights that can help you in your journey along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a review. And as always, if you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at builderstories.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Eric Fortenberry, and remember, every builder has a unique story. Keep building yours.